Mark's Magnificent Marble Maze is the gaming equivalent of the Werther's Originals. It is homely, rustic, elderly, grandparenty, nurturing, and just warm and inviting. And this whole game is built around the principle of digitally recreating a wooden cam toy marble maze that has a gyroscope in the centre that allows you, when you tilt the maze, to completely have the maze swing on its central axis, thus making the marbles move around inside the maze. There are 200 mazes in total, and when you complete a maze, it kind of spins around and the next maze becomes available. And you just continue moving your way through various different mazes. Everything is grounded in mechanical reality here, so you won't find things that kind of evoke a digital special effecty, like low gravity vibes or anything like that. It's all around whether or not it could actually be built as a cam toy or as an actual real wooden toy with pure craftsmanship. So there are things that rely on motors, but you'll hear it kind of going as it's going around, and you'll collect things in like wooden scoops, and that will allow your marble to move across different places. Springs are reactive, so that when you touch on them, they will ping up, and you'll be able to use that as jumps to get over hurdles or across gaps. Marbles also have properties too, so some of them have heavier, so they're able to push metal blocks around, whereas your standard marble can't. There are glass ones, which means that if they hit walls at speed or if they hit jumps, they will just smash, and that'll be the end of that. There are also ones that have got like the rainbow. I can't remember what the actual names of them are with marble terms as a kid, but they kind of activate timer switches, which means that you have to then roll onto the exit point by the time that timer is over, just as the ice cream van shows up. Let's pause. And so what you're doing is constantly thinking about, how does a mechanical toy work, and how would that work to the best of your advantage? I really, really like this game. There are a couple of interesting quirks with it though. Firstly, because it's about that gyroscopic spin on the central point of the maze, I found that the keyboard controls don't work very well at all, but I did really enjoy the controller controls, just using a left analog stick to choose the balance, right to slightly tweak the view sometimes so that I could get a perception of depth a bit better. I also really like what they've done for an experimental VR version, which is where you place one of your Hive controllers on a board, so like a chopping plate or a serving platter or something like that, and you can tilt the board as if you're tilting the maze in your hands, and that replicates on screen too. I didn't have the chance, because I don't have PC VR, to be able to play with this, but watching a demonstration of it, I really like the way how it's been turned into a VR malleable hands-on experience. The other thing that I would say is that the difficulty curve in this is a little bit up and down, because it constantly goes back to previous layouts of mazes and removes some of the help. So at the very beginning it will be like trying to get up a cliff of various different small paths that are quite narrow, but you'll have walls around you the first time round to help. Then about 20 levels later you'll come back to that, and some of those walls will be removed. Q 80 levels later and you're doing the whole thing on a really narrow version of a path, and if you fall off it's back to the beginning and round you go again. So it slowly takes off the training wheels, and sometimes I felt like some of the controls are a little bit too weighty, and so you kind of throw yourself a little bit too hard from one side to the other, which makes some of those later levels a little bit too finicky sometimes for its own good. But I still enjoyed the challenge, had great fun playing it, loved the theming, excellent chill out soundtrack, although there are some synthwave areas for this as well if you want to get into that. And it just it harks back to a certain era for me of late 80s, early 90s, where you had malleable toys that did this. I never had the maze itself in a wooden format. I had the game Screwball Scramble, and that was great fun because it was like a plastic version of this where you had to try and get through hidden mazes, use catapults, little wigwam seesaws that would go back and forth, and you'd pull levers and twist things and try and get to the end in the quickest possible time. Mark's Magnificent Marble Maze takes away all those time limit things, so it's all about just you and your skill trying to get through the maze, but it evokes that same level of satisfaction for me. And so this is a real hidden gem. Go grab it, made by a single person, and it's beautifully put together. So big up the solo devs. Written review will be over on higherplanegames.com later this evening. Any comments or questions, leave them down below. Cheers. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplane network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.